I never thought a casual dinner at home would become the turning point in my marriage of 5 years. It was supposed to be just another evening with Amanda and her friends full of laughter and good wine. Instead, I found myself frozen in shock as my wife's words cut through me like a knife. Tiny performance from a tiny man. The room erupted with laughter while I stood there, heart-pounding, dignity shattered. But what I chose to do next changed everything between us forever. If you are watching this, drop a comment letting me know where you are viewing from, hit that like and subscribe button, and stay tuned to hear how I turned this humiliating moment into a powerful lesson about respect. I am Russell, 34 years old and a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company. I always prided myself on building what I thought was a happy marriage. I met Amanda at a tech conference 6 years ago, where she was representing her marketing firm. I was immediately drawn to her sharp intelligence and confidence. She had this infectious laugh and a way of commanding attention in any room that just captivated me. Our courtship was everything I had hoped for. We connected over shared interests in technology, hiking on weekends, and a mutual love for obscure indie films. I remember our third date when we got caught in a sudden downpour while walking through downtown. Instead of rushing for cover, Amanda grabbed my hands and insisted we dance in the rain. That spontaneity made me fall for her even harder. After dating for 8 months, I proposed during a sunrise hike on her favorite trail. I had hidden a ring in my backpack and asked her to marry me as the first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds. She said yes, immediately jumping into my arms, with tears streaming down her face. I truly believed I had found my forever person. The wedding was small but perfect, just close friends and family at a lakeside venue. Amanda looked stunning in her simple white dress, and I remember thinking I was the luckiest man alive as we exchanged our vows. The first 2 years of marriage were blissful. We moved into a cozy house in a nice neighborhood, adopted a golden retriever named Max, and spent our weekends exploring nearby hiking trails or hosting dinner parties. Looking back now, I can pinpoint when things began to shift, though at the time I was too blind to see it clearly. It started about 3 years into our marriage when Amanda received a promotion at her marketing firm. Her new position came with a significant salary increase and more responsibilities. I was genuinely happy for her success and celebrated every achievement. But with this promotion came a new social circle. Amanda began spending more time with a group of high-powered women executives. Initially, she would invite me to their gatherings, but I quickly felt out of place. While I earned a decent salary as a software engineer, I was clearly not in the same financial bracket as the husbands of these women, who were investment bankers, surgeons, and corporate lawyers. Gradually, Amanda started attending these social events alone. She would come home late, slightly tipsy, talking excitedly about restaurants I could not afford and vacations to places we had never discussed. When I would ask about her evenings, she would give vague answers or change the subject. I noticed other changes too. Amanda became more critical of our home, suggesting renovations we could not afford. She began making comments about my clothes, my haircut, even the car I drove. Each criticism was delivered with a smile, often disguised as helpful suggestions, but they stung nonetheless. Still, I wanted to make her happy and save our marriage. I started cooking elaborate dinners for when she came home. I planned weekend getaways to nearby spots that would not break our budget. I even picked up extra freelance work to surprise her with a designer handbag she had been eyeing. My efforts seemed to make little difference. The most troubling development was the influence of her new friends. Jessica, the CEO of a successful startup, had recently divorced her husband, claiming he could not keep up with her ambition. Stephanie was a corporate lawyer who regularly belittled her husband in conversations, mocking his more modest career as a high school teacher. Megan, a dermatologist with her own practice, was single and often made disparaging remarks about the men she dated. Whenever these women came to our house, I felt scrutinized and judged. They would ask pointed questions about my career progression, making thinly veiled comparisons to their husbands or ex-husbands. Amanda never defended me. Instead, she sometimes joined in comparing me unfavorably to other men in their circle. Despite these warning signs, I held on to hope. I told myself every marriage goes through rough patches. I believed that with enough love and patience, we could weather this storm. I convinced myself that Amanda was just going through a phase trying to impress her new friends, and that eventually things would return to normal. I was wrong. The phase did not pass. The criticisms did not stop, and my patience was about to be tested in a way I never imagined possible. The night that changed everything started like many others. Amanda had invited her 3 closest friends from her new social circle for dinner at our home. She had been planning it for weeks, carefully selecting the menu and wine pairings. I offered to help and spent the entire day cleaning the house, preparing appetizers, and making sure everything was perfect. Jessica arrived first dressed impeccably in a designer outfit I recognized from a magazine Amanda had been reading. Her eyes scanned our living room with a barely concealed look of judgment. "Quaint," she said, which I knew was not a compliment. Stephanie and Megan arrived together shortly after, each carrying expensive bottles of wine that made the ones I had purchased seem inadequate. I greeted them warmly, taking their coats and offering drinks. Amanda seemed tense, checking and rechecking the table settings. I could tell she wanted to impress these women, and I was determined to help make the evening a success despite my personal feelings about them. The first hour went relatively smoothly. We sat in the living room with appetizers, while I poured wine and kept conversation flowing. I shared a funny story about a coding error at work that had accidentally sent test emails to the entire company. The women laughed politely, but I could tell they were not genuinely engaged. Then Jessica started talking about her recent luxury cruise and how she had upgraded to the premium suite because life is too short to settle for basic accommodations. Stephanie chimed in with a story about her recent bonus and the sports car she had purchased on impulse. Megan talked about her clinic expansion and the celebrity clients she now treated. Amanda grew increasingly quiet during these exchanges, and I could see a familiar look in her eyes, a mixture of admiration and envy. When the conversation turned to her, she mentioned her recent promotion but quickly downplayed it compared to their achievements. I tried to interject, praising her hard work and creative campaigns, but my comments were brushed aside. As we moved to the dining room for the main course, the dynamic shifted even further. Jessica began complaining about her ex-husband's inability to manage money. "Men just do not understand the value of strategic investment," she declared, looking pointedly at me. Stephanie laughed and added a story about her husband's failed attempt to negotiate a salary increase. "He just sat there accepting whatever crumbs they offered," she said, with a dismissive wave of her hand. The conversation quickly devolved into a session of husband bashing. Megan, though single, joined in with tales of disappointing dates with men who could not match her success. I sat quietly, trying to maintain a neutral expression while serving the dinner I had helped prepare. Then Jessica turned to Amanda. "So how does Russell handle your success? Most men feel threatened when their wives earn more." There was a moment of silence. I looked at Amanda, expecting her to defend our relationship. Instead, she took a long sip of wine, glanced at me with a strange smile, and said, "Oh, you know how it is with men like Russell. They try their best, but—" She paused, looking for the right words. "It is like watching a tiny performance from a tiny man." She finished, her voice light but her words heavy with cruelty. "Always giving it his all, but never quite measuring up, whether in the boardroom or the bedroom." The table erupted in laughter. Stephanie nearly choked on her wine. Megan slow clapped in appreciation of the cutting remark. Jessica nodded approvingly, as if Amanda had finally passed some unspoken test. I sat there completely frozen. The room seemed to blur around me as her words echoed in my head. Tiny performance. Tiny man. In that moment, I felt as if someone had driven a knife straight through my heart. 5 years of marriage, countless moments of support and love, all reduced to a cruel joke for the entertainment of people who meant nothing to me. What hurt most was not just the sexual implication, but the comprehensive dismissal of me as a person, my efforts, my career, my worth as a husband and a man. And from the person who had vowed to love and respect me above all others. I do not remember exactly what I said next. Something about needing to check on dessert, I think. I excused myself from the table and walked to the kitchen on legs that felt like they might give way at any moment. Once alone, I gripped the edge of the counter, trying to steady my breathing and hold back the tears that threatened to fall. Through the kitchen door, I could hear them still laughing, Amanda now fully engaged in the conversation, offering more details about my supposed inadequacies. Each word was another cut, another betrayal. I realized then that my wife had chosen the approval of these women over her respect for me. She was willing to humiliate me to gain their acceptance. I did not return to the dinner table. Instead, I quietly went to my home office, closed the door, and sat in the dark. As I sat there, memories flooded back, many of them good, but now tainted by this new revelation. I remembered our wedding day when Amanda had vowed to honor me. I thought of the countless times I had supported her career moves, celebrated her successes, and comforted her failures. But I also recalled instances I had previously dismissed her casual put-downs in front of friends, her increasing criticism of my career choices, her subtle comparisons to more successful men. These were not new behaviors, I realized. Tonight was simply the culmination of a pattern I had been ignoring. I sat in that dark room for hours, wrestling with conflicting emotions. Part of me still loved. Amanda still wanted to believe we could fix this. Another part felt a rage so intense it frightened me. But beneath both the love and the anger was something else, a deep, resolute certainty that I would never allow myself to be treated this way again. Not by Amanda, not by anyone. When I finally heard the front door close as her friends departed, I did not emerge from the office. And when Amanda eventually knocked, asking if I was coming to bed, I simply said, "Not tonight." Those two words contained all the hurt and disappointment I could not yet fully express. That night, sleeping on the small couch in my office, I made a decision. This would not be the end of my story with Amanda, but it would be the end of my acceptance of disrespect. What came next would either rebuild our marriage on a foundation of mutual respect or end it entirely. Either way, I would never be a tiny man giving a tiny performance again. I woke up the next morning with a stiff neck from the office couch, but a clear mind. Amanda had already left for work when I emerged, not even leaving a note. Her absence spoke volumes. It confirmed that she either did not recognize the severity of what had happened, or worse, did not care. I took a personal day from work, something I rarely did. I needed time to think, to plan my response. My initial instinct had been rage, a desire to lash out to hurt Amanda as deeply as she had hurt me, but that was not who I wanted to be. Responding to cruelty with cruelty would only drag me down to a level I refused to inhabit. Instead, I sat at my desk and began to write. I poured out every emotion, every hurt, every moment of disrespect I had endured. I wrote about my love for Amanda, how it had blinded me to the slow erosion of her respect for me. I detailed the previous night's humiliation in excruciating clarity. The letter ran to several pages, but I did not hold back. When I finished, I sealed it in an envelope but did not yet decide when to give it to her. My next step was more practical. I called a marriage counselor whose name I had saved months ago, sensing we might eventually need professional help. The receptionist offered an appointment for the following week. I took it and asked them to send a calendar invitation to both my and Amanda's email addresses. That afternoon, I went to the gym, a place I had neglected for too long. As I pushed my body through a punishing workout, I felt a small sense of reclamation. This body that had been mocked was still mine to strengthen, to improve, to respect. The physical exertion helped clear my mind further and reinforced my resolve. When I returned home, I showered and then did something I had been putting off for months. I opened my laptop and began working on a personal coding project I had conceived over a year ago, a software application that could potentially become a valuable side business. Amanda had dismissed the idea when I first mentioned it, saying I should focus on climbing the corporate ladder instead. By the time Amanda came home that evening, I was deeply absorbed in my work. She entered my office tentatively, perhaps expecting an argument. "You did not go to work today?" she asked. "I took a personal day," I replied, not looking up from my screen. "Are you feeling sick?" There was a note of concern in her voice, but it sounded hollow to my ears. "I am not sick, Amanda. I am hurt." I finally looked at her. "But we can talk about that later if you want. Right now I am busy." She seemed taken aback by my calm demeanor. "Is this about last night?" "It was just a joke, Russell. The girls and I were just having fun." I stopped typing and turned to face her fully. "I received a calendar invitation for marriage counseling next week. I hope you will join me." "Marriage counseling?" She laughed nervously. "We do not need that. You are overreacting. The appointment is next Thursday at 6. I continued as if she had not spoken. "I hope you will be there. Now, if you will excuse me, I need to finish this." I turned back to my computer, ending the conversation. From the corner of my eye, I saw confusion and perhaps a flash of worry cross her face before she left the room. Over the next week, I maintained a polite but distant relationship with Amanda. I slept in the guest bedroom, explaining that I needed space to think. I continued going to the gym daily and working on my project in the evenings. When we did interact, I was cordial but reserved, not engaging in our usual banter or responding to her attempts to return to normal. Amanda's attitude evolved from dismissive to concerned as the days passed. She tried multiple approaches, apologizing half-heartedly, acting as if nothing had happened, attempting to initiate intimacy. When none of these worked, she became defensive, accusing me of punishing her for a harmless joke. "You are being so sensitive," she said one evening as I prepared to leave for the gym. "It was just girl talk. Everyone exaggerates for a laugh. I will see you at counseling tomorrow," was my only response. The day of our appointment arrived. I half expected Amanda not to show up, but to my surprise, she was waiting in the parking lot when I arrived. The counselor, Dr. Harmon, was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, but a no-nonsense demeanor. She asked us to describe what had brought us to her office. I spoke first, calmly recounting the dinner party incident and the pattern of disrespect that had preceded it. I did not raise my voice or use accusatory language. I simply stated the facts as I experienced them and explained how they made me feel. When I finished, Amanda immediately became defensive. It was just a joke, she insisted, looking to Dr. Harmon for support. Everyone says things like that about their spouses. His friends probably say worse things about me when I am not around. Actually, they do not, I interjected quietly. Because I would never allow anyone to speak disrespectfully about you whether you were present or not. Dr. Harmon turned to Amanda. "It sounds like Russell felt deeply humiliated by your comments. Can you understand why what you said might have hurt him?" "He is just being oversensitive," Amanda replied, but her voice wavered slightly. "It was not that bad." "Let me ask you this," Dr. Harmon continued. "Would you feel comfortable if Russell described your physical appearance or sexual performance negatively to his friends? If he joked about you being inadequate in some way?" Amanda fell silent, her expression changing as the comparison sank in. "What Russell is describing," Dr. Harmon explained, "is not just about one comment. It is about a pattern of behavior that has made him feel devalued in your relationship. That is a serious issue that needs to be addressed if your marriage is to heal." By the end of the session, Amanda's defensiveness had cracked slightly. Dr. Harmon assigned us both homework to write down our expectations for respect in a marriage and to reflect on times we might have fallen short. As we walked to our separate cars afterward, I finally handed Amanda the letter I had written. "I want you to understand exactly how I felt that night," I said. "Take your time reading it. I do not expect an immediate response." Then I added the words that I knew would truly shock her. "I have found a short-term rental apartment. I am moving there temporarily while we figure out what happens next." Her face paled. "You are leaving me." Over one comment, "I am not leaving you, Amanda. I am leaving a situation where I am not respected. I hope it is temporary, but that depends on both of us." As I drove away, I caught a glimpse of her in my rearview mirror, standing frozen in the parking lot, my letter clutched in her hand. For the first time since that dinner party, she looked truly speechless. The small furnished apartment I rented became my sanctuary over the next few weeks. It was nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom unit in a quiet complex across town, but it gave me the space I needed to think clearly. Each morning, I woke up and reminded myself that this separation was not about punishing Amanda. It was about valuing myself enough to demand better. 3 days after our counseling session, I received a text from Amanda asking if we could talk. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop midway between our house and my apartment. When she arrived, her eyes were red-rimmed from crying, and she looked like she had not been sleeping well. "I read your letter," she said after we had settled at a corner table. "I read it many times, actually." Her voice trembled slightly. "I had no idea I had hurt you so deeply." I simply nodded, waiting for her to continue. "At first I thought you were overreacting," she admitted. "But then I tried to imagine how I would feel if you had said something similar about me in front of your friends." She looked down at her untouched coffee. "I would have been devastated." It was the first genuine acknowledgement of my pain I had heard from her, and something inside me softened slightly. Still, I remained cautious. "What made you change your perspective?" I asked. "Partly your letter, partly talking with Dr. Harmon." She hesitated. "And partly Jessica's reaction when I told her we were having problems." "You told Jessica about our counseling." I was surprised and a little concerned. Amanda nodded. "I thought she would understand, maybe offer support." Instead, she laughed and said I should just divorce you and find someone more on my level. Her voice hardened. That is when I started to see how toxic that friendship had become. How toxic I had become when I was around her. We talked for nearly 3 hours that day. Amanda explained how she had gotten caught up in the competitive materialistic values of her new friend group. How she had begun measuring her worth, and by extension, mine, by salary, job title, and status. She admitted that she had been trying to impress these women to prove she belonged in their circle, even at my expense. "I think I was insecure," she confessed. These women seemed so confident, so successful. I wanted to be like them. I thought that meant I needed to act like them, talk like them, even if it meant putting you down. I appreciated her honesty, but I also made my position clear. I understand feeling insecure, Amanda. Everyone does sometimes. But using me as a punching bag to make yourself look better was never okay. And it cannot happen again if we are going to move forward. We agreed to continue with our weekly counseling sessions, and I decided to remain in my apartment for the time being. This was not a problem that could be fixed with one conversation or one apology, no matter how sincere. Over the following months, we both did a lot of growing. I continued developing my side project, which was beginning to show real promise. My supervisor at work noticed my renewed focus and confidence, and put me in charge of an important new initiative. The regular gym sessions were paying off too, not just physically, but in terms of my overall well-being and self-esteem. Amanda made changes as well. She gradually distanced herself from Jessica and the others, forming new friendships with colleagues who shared more positive values. She joined me for several counseling sessions where we worked on communication strategies and ways to rebuild trust and respect in our relationship. Most importantly, Amanda seemed to genuinely recognize the harm her behavior had caused. "I miss the way we used to be," she said during one of our coffee shop meetings. "Before I started caring so much about impressing people who did not actually care about me. Before I forgot what really mattered." 6 months after that fateful dinner party, I finally felt ready to consider moving back home. Amanda and I had been spending more time together, rebuilding our connection through simple activities, going hiking like we used to, cooking meals together, watching our favorite shows. The tension between us had largely dissipated, replaced by a more mature, thoughtful relationship. When I did move back, we established new ground rules for our marriage. We committed to regular check-ins about how we were feeling. We agreed never to put each other down, even jokingly, especially in front of others. And we promised to call each other out respectfully but firmly if either of us slipped into old patterns. 1 year after the incident, our marriage was stronger than it had ever been. My side project had launched successfully and was generating a modest but growing income. Amanda had been promoted again, but approached her success with a healthier perspective. We had rebuilt our social circle with friends who valued kindness and authenticity over status and materialism. Looking back, I realized that what could have destroyed our marriage ultimately transformed it. Had I responded with anger or revenge, had I merely walked away without giving us a chance to heal, we would have lost something valuable. Instead, by standing firm in my worth while remaining open to reconciliation, I created space for real change. The most important lesson I learned through all of this was about self-respect. No relationship, no matter how much history or love it contains, is worth sacrificing your dignity. Setting boundaries is not selfishness, it is self-preservation. And sometimes walking away, even temporarily, is the only way to give a relationship the chance to become what it should be. That night when Amanda publicly humiliated me, something broke inside our marriage. But in that breaking, something stronger had the chance to form. The pain was real, and the healing took time, but we emerged with a deeper understanding of each other and ourselves. There are some wounds that only time can heal, but it is how we respond to our pain that truly defines us. Sometimes walking away is the only way to earn respect, and sometimes it is the only way to give love a real chance to be reborn. I wonder if any of you have ever faced similar situations in your relationships where you had to stand up for your self-respect. How did you handle it? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing to our channel for more real-life experiences. Sharing this video might help someone else who is struggling with disrespect in their relationship. Thank you for listening to my story, and remember, demanding respect is not just about preserving your dignity, it is about creating the foundation for genuinely loving relationships.